So we're still on to the program Morning Rides on the Nigerian Television Authority and to Lagos Network Center. I'm enjoying myself.
I'm having fun, real fun, and talking about having fun. Right now, we move to Tolani. Tolani in the building, giving us lifestyle and nutrition.
Food is the most abused anxiety drug, while exercise is the most underutilized antidepressant drug. My name is Fashion Tolani, you at Nutrition Gist, media queen from the Savage Line, and this is the health, lifestyle, and nutrition segment of the Morning Ride Show. Okay, so we're still on this weight loss series, and then I hope you're not getting bored. Remember, I said it is better that we trash everything adequately, not just going into, okay, eat this, don't eat this, because you can eat this and not eat that and do this. And at the end of everything, you see that the weight loss, maybe it is not retained. You only lose it for some time, and then it all comes back again. And then you're like, oh, this thing is so boring, and it doesn't really give rewards. But the fact is that there are some principles to consider. Very, very, very essential. So when we have those principles, you won't be at one hand, putting up some stores, and at the other hand, depleting it again. So let's get everything well balanced. And like I said, I would always reiterate that, yes, I would always emphasize that at the end of this series, I promise you that if you're really, so much interested in losing weight, you would see that it would be very, very easy for you to do. So we've been talking about how did I become overweight? How? And we talked about the biological factors. Remember genetics, remember being born less than 2.5 kg, blah, 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 BMR. Let me go into all of that again. Okay, we talked about the psychological and then lifestyle and diet. Okay, so still on the psychological reason now. Could there be psychological link? Could there be something that has to do with nature or nurture that makes people add more weight? I'm going to give us two factors under the psychological section. And number one is nature. Now listen carefully. Some of us, when we are not happy, when we are sad, when we are depressed, maybe for one reason or the other, or we are grieving, we turn to food. We see that some people, it is when they lose somebody dear to them or they are grieving, that is the time that they even add more weight. Why? Because they eat more voraciously at that time. Because food is the only thing that gives them pleasure. So they turn to it. Yes, some other people, when they are just sad, when they are bored, when they're depressed, they turn to food and they eat more voraciously. Now, this attitude of turning to food when you're not happy, when you're depressed, when you're sad, would always make you add more weight. So even if you begin to go on a particular diet or you begin to take fitness, when those bouts of depression comes, when those bouts of grieving or whatever comes, you just turn back to food again. And then you notice that it is the sugars that you tend towards, the carbohydrates, the ice creams, the alcohol, all of those foods that will give you more calories and make you add weight. And simultaneously, you won't be working out. You're just lying down, you're just sitting down, and then the weight all builds up. So what do you do when you are depressed? Advise some people, if your sweet tooth wants something sweet, why don't you go for some sweet fruits like imported grapes, if you're in Nigeria here, or the normal grapes. Why don't you go for it? They will never make you add weight. Why don't you go for kiwi? Why don't you go for strawberries? Why don't you go for apples? Go for those particular fruits and vegetables and salads that are sweet. They will not make you add weight. When you take more of them, you chew more of those particular things, no matter how much of fruits you take, you can never add weight. And then if you want to do alcohol, why don't you do something like red wine? You can never add weight if you do that. But overall, I'll advise, talk to someone, open up, cry if you can, but don't make food be the remedy when you are sad. We're going to go on this short break and we'll be back. Don't go away. Welcome back. So we're still talking about psychological matters that make people add more weight. What we do, that affects our emotions and make us tend more to, eating more calories and working out less. And then, of course, we blow up easily. Okay, so another thing that we must know is nurture. I talked about nature in the sense of emotional eating, drawing to food when sad. But another one again is nurture. I call it emotional eating. Now I want mothers to listen carefully to this. In our bid to make sure that our children eat more, some of us model them into people that when they grow into adults, they don't know when to say, I've had enough. I'm okay. I don't need to eat anymore. This example is when you put food in front of your little boy, your little girl, and you say, you must finish this food. Some will put a cane beside that food. If you don't eat this food, I'm going to beat you up. If you don't eat this food, some others, they use food as reward. If you can pass your exams, I'll give you ice cream. If you can do this, I'll do this. So what happens is that child grows not to know when to say, I've had enough. It believes that pleasing people is finishing all of that food in front of him. And so when it grows up, it goes to visit a friend is at a party or is whatever, that mentality of I just must finish everything in front of me is inbuilt in them. And this pattern grows up to make the person have, this notion of this attitude of overeating that makes them tend to becoming overweight. Part of the principles of dieting that we give people often is that don't ever leave the table full. Yes, don't eat and be full. Like our parents will say, are you full? It shouldn't be so. Don't eat the table feeling full. Always leave just okay, are full. You don't have to finish everything in your plate. Yes, those are the particular principles that help you not to overeat. Because if you have the tendency to overeating, and unfortunately you're not a very active person, you will always add more weight. So recapping on the psychological factors, remember I said that food is the most used anxiety drug, while exercise, unfortunately, is the most underutilized antidepressant drug. When you are sad, when you are not feeling happy, don't make food the remedy. Try to talk to someone. Even if you have to travel miles, there would be one person under the sky that you can talk to. They say a burden, a problem shared is a problem half solved. Turning to food, turning to sex, turning to some kind of entertainment will not help you. You'd only add more weight and you'd only abuse food even further. And of course, like I said about nurture, teaching children, teaching toddlers, teaching our children, or we growing up. Let me not talk about toddlers now. You yourself are growing up from the notion of I must always finish every food in front of me. These factors would always increase weight. And even if you started dieting, you still have the mentality of finishing everything up in front of you, of pleasing people by eating all they give you. You would always tend to be overweight. Okay, so that is that about biological, psychological factors. And we're going to go now to the third factor, and that is lifestyle factors. So don't go away. We'll be back with this series. I think this is a good place for me to wrap up this segment at this time. Till we meet, same time, same one and right, same me. You go, eat to live, and don't live to eat. Bye for now.